you always find yourself trying to fix him, trying to understand him, trying to piece together his fragmented promises into something that resembles a future. You tell yourself it's patience, but it's not patience. It's a slow erosion of your own boundaries. You keep clinging to the idea that if you just hold on tighter, he'll eventually see your worth and stop letting go. But here is the forbidden truth: you can't teach someone to value you when they benefit from your devaluation. He's not lost, he's strategic. He is strategic in his inconsistency, strategic in the way he offers just enough warmth to keep you from freezing, just enough attention to keep you from leaving. He knows precisely how many apologies it takes to buy another week of your loyalty, and how many half-truths are needed to keep you from demanding the whole story. You believe you're navigating his complex emotions. He sees you as a predictable variable in his equation of self-interest. Every time you forgive his disappearing act, you teach him that your presence is guaranteed. Every time you accept his excuses for breaking a promise, you teach him that his words have no weight. You're not showing him grace. You're granting him immunity. And that is why he never changes. Because he doesn't need to change, you do. Not because there is something inherently wrong with you, but because your concept of loyalty has been twisted into self-abandonment. You were taught, somewhere in your past, that loyalty means weathering the storm, even if you are the only one getting rained on. You learned that being the understanding one meant absorbing pain without complaint, and that leaving was a sign of failure, not an act of self-preservation. But staying in a place that drains you isn't loyalty. It's a hostage situation, and you've become a willing captive to the hope of who he could be. This isn't love, it's anxiety, the anxiety of being labeled difficult or demanding if you finally ask for the consistency you deserve. Let's face the cold reality. You don't choose men who are emotionally unavailable by chance. You choose them because their distance feels like a challenge. You are uniquely qualified to win. Their hot and cold behavior mirrors a dynamic you've known before. The dynamic where affection was a reward, not a given. The love you had to perform for, the validation you had to continuously earn. And so, when he pulls back, you lean in. When he creates distance, you build a bridge. When he offers silence, you fill it with your own vulnerability, hoping to coax his out. Because, if we are being brutally honest, you are not trying to understand him. You are trying to heal the part of yourself that was taught that love is a battle, and your worth is measured by how long you can stay in the fight. You confuse compassion with complicity. You mistake his breadcrumbs for a banquet. And you see a soulmate in someone who only offers a fraction of his soul. But let me tell you something you already know in your gut: you cannot build a foundation on someone else's shifting ground. Every time you accept his minimal effort, you signal that your needs are optional, your feelings are secondary, and your time is expendable. You can't understand him because understanding him requires him to be honest, and his comfort depends on his ambiguity. You crave clarity, but you have become addicted to deciphering his mixed signals. You are waiting for the man who appears in fleeting moments of vulnerability, the one who whispers apologies in the dark but disappears in the light of day. And that ghost of a man is what keeps you tethered to the reality of his neglect. Let's name it for what it truly is. It is not a complex connection. It's hope addiction. Psychologically, it's known as intermittent reinforcement. The unpredictable rewards, a sudden sweet text, a rare moment of full attention, are just enough to keep you hooked, forever chasing the next hit of validation. Because if he were consistently good, you would relax. But if he were consistently bad, you would leave. He keeps you in the middle, in a state of perpetual anticipation, so you keep finding men who need figuring out. Not because you enjoy the mystery, but because the puzzle makes you feel essential. And with each new man, you tell yourself, he's just guarded. You see his walls and think, I can be the one to make him feel safe enough to tear them down. But what he truly needs is to confront why he builds those walls in the first place without you standing outside, patiently waiting for an invitation that will never come. Here is the forbidden truth. The man you are trying to understand does not want to be known. He wants to be excused. He wants your empathy without offering you his transparency. He wants the comfort of your presence without the commitment of his own. And you give him both because you still believe that your love can be a key to unlock his hidden heart. But love doesn't unlock people. It meets them where they are. If he wanted you to understand him, he would speak a language you could comprehend. If he wanted to be closer, he would stop creating the distance himself. He doesn't need more of your analysis. He needs to experience the absence of your effort. And the only way you will ever find clarity is when you stop trying to read between the lines and start reading the writing on the wall. When you finally stop trying to understand, something deafening happens. Stillness, quiet, an uncomfortable void. But in that void, you finally start to hear your own voice again. The voice of the woman who doesn't need a man's inconsistency to feel a spark. The woman who discovers that stability isn't boring, it is peace. You do not lose a future by walking away from a man who won't commit to the present. You lose your present moment by waiting for a future that will never arrive. Because love shouldn't feel like a detective story. It should feel like coming home. And if your relationship feels like a constant investigation, you're not in love, you're in a loop. So stop trying to understand him. He's not a riddle, he's a choice. And every time you try to solve him, he learns that you'll stay. He doesn't respect your intellect. He relies on your overthinking. You can't build a future with someone who only gives you pieces of his past. You can't teach vulnerability to someone who has learned that withholding it gives him power. And you cannot call it a relationship when it costs you your own sense of reality. Let him be a mystery. Let him sit with the confusion he creates. Let him face the echo of his own silence. Because if he finally experiences what it's like to be with someone who doesn't try to decode his behavior, he might realize how much energy you were investing. But by then you will be too busy understanding yourself. You do not have to understand him to prove your intelligence. You have to stop understanding him to prove your wisdom. You were never meant to be his interpreter. You were meant to be his clarity. The truth doesn't comfort, it frees.